And baby E, we're gonna talk about bud vases and some of the flowers that I like using in bud vases. And he loves being on camera. He's totally a little ham. And then some tips and tricks. And yeah, let's just talk about bud vases. These are one of the most popular things for wedding season this year, it seems. And I get questions all the time about what flowers to use, where to get vases or vases. I still haven't actually looked up the correct pronunciation of vase versus vase. So that's something that I have on my to-do list. So thrift stores are obviously a good place to get them, but then you have to kind of go from thrift store to thrift store, which is like not super ideal for folks. So I actually just got these ones here from Amazon. I mean, you can get everything from Amazon these days. Hello to the person just joining me talking about bud vases. So these ones here are from Amazon, and the reason I like them is because we have a bunch of different sizes and shapes here, so that gives like a really neat look to your arrangement if you're kind of trying to go for like a bit of a variety on them. If some people want to do like a really mono landscape where they're looking to have like all the same flowers and all the same size, and so that obviously wouldn't work, but I really like these ones kind of for like, this is a little bit like vintage inspired looking. But regardless of what type of vase or vase you're going to get, you want to make sure that they have a quite small opening, because if they're too big, then you have to put a lot of flowers in them, and then it just ends up like looking like a flower arrangement rather than like a bud vase vibe. So that's something you need to be aware of. And then in terms of like the heights, like these ones from Amazon are a couple different heights, which I really love. But they all have that really small opening that I was talking about. So for, look at this one. I really like this one here. It's really short. So here's a hot tip. If you're doing your flower arrangements, like say making bouquets, and you have flowers that break off or snap off or whatever, if you have little bud vases like this, you don't have to chuck those flowers away. They just fit perfectly in a little container like this. And then if you don't have a plan, say for doing bud vases for your wedding, you could just put this little cute mini arrangement and put them like say on the bar table or the bathroom or a welcome table or whatever. And that way you brighten up an area and then you don't waste flowers. So regardless if you're doing bud vases or not, I always suggest getting a couple little containers like this. And also important, they have a small opening, because say you got like a mason jar that has like a really big opening. Hi, Noel, or Noel, I don't know how to pronounce that. But if you did say a mason jar that's still short, that's not really gonna work for kind of these pieces that break off, because it's so big that you then have to make like a whole arrangement, versus this one is so little and cute. If you have say like 3 or 4 flowers that say don't work for your vibe, you can just easily just pop them in here, and then they're gonna work perfect for this little arrangement for wherever you want to put them on the for your wedding. So for flowers that I'm going to talk about today, actually maybe first I'll talk about pruners versus scissors. Okay, so I've got pruners and I've got scissors here. So you need both of these. And the reason why when we're doing flower arranging we use pruners is because these are really sharp and they give like a really clean cut through our flower stems, versus the scissors aren't really sharp enough, and so they slightly smush the flower stems, and a smushed flower stem can't uptake water well, and so then they're not going to last as long as possible. So scissors are not the tool to use when you are doing flower arrangements. You need the pruners. And it's also really important that, hello dear, hello. It's really important that these are clean, because we want to make sure that we don't introduce any bacteria into our water or our stems themselves, because bacteria causes premature death. And so if our pruners are really smaggly and gross, then that's like a terrible idea. So we're gonna make sure, yeah, exactly, terrible idea, hey? So we can just use rubbing alcohol or soap and water, but these puppies need to be really clean, as do all our containers that we're using. We don't want to just like pull them out of the cupboard where they've been sitting for like 5 years, dusty and whatnot. So we want to make sure everything is clean, our buckets are clean, like everything needs to be clean. That's right. Clink is good. Yeah. Okay, so we talked about supplies there. Flowers. Can you talk in Hindi language? Definitely can. I can talk in baby language and English, and that is about it. We're pretty limited over here, so sorry about that. Okay, so I got flowers here. So I wanted to talk about the flowers that I really like using in bud vases. So little baby E's trying to steal them here. Okay, so here is a carnation. And so a carnation is a really, really affordable flower to use in DIY arrangements, but I wouldn't say do only carnations because then it kind of looks like you went shopping at like a grocery store or that it's like your grandmother's funeral. But if you do a variety of carnations with some other more luxe blooms, like for example, this wax flower, then we're able to like create it a little bit more elevated. And that's kind of a secret here in flower arranging, is kind of to do a mix of like high and low. So like a high flower would be something like a lisianthus or ranunculus, like the bougie expensive flowers, and then the low flowers is something like a carnation. And so when you mix them, that's a really great idea because then you don't like blow your budget with all these luxe flowers, but then it doesn't look like a grocery store shop by just filling it with things like mums and carnations and they're really like budget flowers. So mixing like high and low, like wax flower and carnation. So Tech Digital Hub is from India. Cool. I'm from Canada. So this carnation here is a great one to put in a bud vase. And then combining it with something, say like a wax flower. So a stem of wax flower like this, they often have a couple shoots on them. And so what I would do here is I would make this into 2 sprigs for my bud vase. So I would cut this side off here. And then now the baby's so cute. I know he is like loving being the star of the show here. Look at his smile. He's like, yes, I'm a star here. Okay. So I cut it into 2 pieces here. I'm gonna get a chair. I'm like leaning over. This is not comfortable. Okay, this is better. Okay. Isn't that right, baby E? Yeah. 2 pieces here. So we never want any leaves to be in the water. So if we were going to use this one, I hope you guys can hear me amidst him like trying to be the star of the show. So this bud vase here, if I were to put this one in here, you can see that there's a little bit of leaves like underneath the vase here, and that is not good because that will introduce, I'm going to try to swipe it, that could introduce bacteria to the water because as time goes on, those leaves get really, really gross and slimy, and then they make the water slimy. So if I'm using this one here, I'm going to need to take my pruners and just cut off these side shoots so they don't end up being in the water. That is so important, guys. Like people ask, how do you make flowers last longer? Make sure there's nothing in the water other than clean water. Nothing in the water other than clean water. And then that means you need to change the water all the time. So I would change the water like every second day. So look, 1 little sprig of wax flower. So you can see that the opening of this vase is like too big just for this single flower. Like it kind of looks like it's floating in space. So why don't we add in some greenery? This is Israeli ruscus, and this is one that I really like using in my bud vases because it has a really upright profile. So something, say like a silver dollar eucalyptus, has a really drapey profile and it's quite large sized. And so I feel like it just kind of overpowers something that's so small and delicate versus Israeli ruscus is a much better size. So like that looks not good. So I'm going to cut it down. So how do you know how to cut it down without like cutting it too short? Here's a hot tip. You can take your ruscus and like line it up to the vase, and then you can kind of suss out like this is how high it would be if it was here, or if we like my hair, if you slide it down here, that's what it would look like. And so say I decided it would go like here, see all these leaves are now going to be in the water and I need to pull those out. So this could be my greenery and that would look totally great. Up here like this. My hair! Okay. That's That's not funny. Up here, it looks way too rainy. So I'm gonna just line it up here to see where I want it. Then using my pruners, give it a snip. And then I need to take off these leaves. So I like using my pruners to take off the leaves because sometimes when you pull off the leaves with your fingers, you can actually like rip the stem, and that's yet another opportunity for bacteria to come in. So there we go. That's starting to look cute. I've got this filler, which is the wax flower, and I've got this Israeli ruscus. I was trying to think, is it Italian or Israeli? It's hard to concentrate. Did you know that it's hard to concentrate when you have a small child pulling your hair? But if I waited to do these when I didn't have a child around, that would mean never. So here, we're just doing this. Okay, greenery and a filler, which is wax flower. And wax flower is one of my go-to, like I always use wax. Oh my gosh, are you gonna puke on me? Wax flower in all my arrangement. So then here I've got this carnation. So the carnation's gonna be my big flower. So when I'm doing my bud vases, I kind of do like one big flower and then one filler flower and then a greenery. So same thing here where I'm kind of taking it and like sussing up like how high do I want it to be. So if I put it up here, I've got like kind of these high flowers here and then nothing down here. So I kind of want to have some like height variation. So high, medium, and then low. So kind of sussing it out here and then just give it a cut. Again, see little leaves. I don't want to, careful, baby doesn't get these. I want to make sure that I'm not ripping the stem at all. So I'm just going to use my pruners to pull off the leaves here and then stick this guy. Oh, there's still another one. So let's cut this off, and there we go. So there, if you're doing this for a wedding, like that's a perfect little bud vase with the carnation, wax flower, and Israeli ruscus, and it's quite affordable. So wax flower comes in bunches that have like a stem. Earlier I showed that like this piece and this piece were on the same stem. So this one I can use in a second bud vase arrangement. But I also, if I was doing boutonnieres, I actually really love the wax flower foliage. Like it's super pretty. This is a very woody plant, so it lasts, woody stem, sorry, it lasts a really long time. And I actually take these, oh my God, I'm losing the baby. I take these pieces off and use these as foliage in my boutonnieres actually, because I really love like the pokiness. And then I also love wax flower in boutonnieres because it has like some top like here that are closed and then some pieces that are open. And I just think it's so pretty. But I'm getting onto another topic. I should do a whole video on boutonnieres, but this is about bud vases. So wax flower is like my go-to. So if I'm doing this in a bud vase, and this might be too much, say like this is like too much wax flower for the vibe that I'm going with, I could just take like maybe the top part off and like give it a little trim here, and then I just have like these flowers here. So you can kind of play with like how much flower do you want in it, and then just kind of cut off the extra flowers you want. Or maybe you didn't want like this bloom here or this bloom, like just cut off things that you don't want in this stem if it's too overpowering for you. So I'm done kind of talking here about wax flower. So let's talk about another flower that is my go-to, and that is spray roses. So if we kind of stay on this same theme here of like, you're the florist, you get to design how you like to design. This is a single stem of wax flower, and you can see it has a bazillion blooms. So I feel like I can't stay on topic just about bud vases because there's so much overlap with boutonnieres. So say I was gonna make a boutonniere here, spray rose is perfect because this one has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 8 flowers on this. So I could use like a singular bloom of spray rose to do like essentially all my boutonnieres here, versus if you were doing something like ranunculus, you would do like 1 bloom per boutonniere, which means say you had 8 groomsmen, you essentially have to order a whole bunch, versus this, you just need 1 stem. So Spray rose is perfect for using in boutonnieres, and it's also perfect for bud vases. So kind of what I was talking about, like you're the florist, you get to decide how much you want in a arrangement. So this I feel like is way too overpowering, like all these blooms for such a small vase. So that's where I'm the florist, I get to decide. So I'm gonna take off some of these side blooms. And so say for example, I'm not even making bud vases here. This is just in my bouquet. I cut off this piece here. This is perfect to use in a boutonniere, but also if I had, say this, like a handy dandy bud vase that I was keeping to the side, this is also perfect to just plop in. Remember what I said, guys? We don't want any leaves to be in there. So I'm pulling off the leaves and then like pop that in. That can be like put in a bathroom or a bar or whatever. So you never want to throw away flowers. That's like throwing away money. So I've got this kind of to this side because it was way too many flowers for me. Like that just kind of would overpower my bud vase arrangement. And so I cut off a couple. There's also leaves on here that aren't very pretty on the spray rose. So I'm cutting those off. And spray roses always have buds that some are open and some are closed, and the ones that are closed never open. That is just their thing. But I love that because that gives like texture and dimension. But if you're like sitting around waiting for them to open, you're gonna sit there forever because they will not open. Don't take my flowers, little baby. Okay, so this one, like see how close that is? That will never ever open. But this, where's the one that's kind of medium open? Like this one here will open a little bit more, but it's not gonna fully open. Oftentimes spray roses, not on this one, but oftentimes they'll have a stem that doesn't have a flower on top. It's just like a lone stem, and that's super common in spray roses. So I just cut off the stem without a flower head. Or sometimes there'll be a flower head that's kind of ugly, and again, just cut that off. So this here is looking a little bit more refined for what I'd want in a bud vase, but it's still a lot of flower to go in like a vase. So let's put this one away because that one I'm happy with the Israeli Ruscus wax flower carnation. I'm happy with that one. And then this one here is just kind of my spare that I'm keeping my flowers in that I don't know what to do with yet. And this one I'm gonna start to fill up. So see if I kind of suss it up. It's like it's a lot of flower for this arrangement. So I think I'm gonna figure out which one do I kind of want to remove. I think I'm gonna remove this one here and then stick that kind of in my extra bud vase. And so that is looking a little bit more what I'm kind of looking for. And I can experiment with like, do I want it here? That looks really goofy. If I cut it here, it looks congested at the bottom. So I can just cut it kind of here at an angle with my pruners. And you can always obviously cut it shorter, but you can't cut it longer. So that's what a spray rose looks like in a bud vase. I'm gonna cut this actually a little bit shorter even. So I don't love the look of what this is right now. Like I feel like it's got like beautiful flowers at the top and then there's nothing kind of right here. So that's where I'm gonna bring in something else. Whoops. And it's top heavy. Once I put water in it, it'll be okay. Right now it's really top heavy. So this here is Solidago, which is a really great filler flower. I'm gonna use my scissors. Whoop. Sorry guys, I'm like focused obviously on you, but also trying to make sure my baby doesn't eat anything he's not supposed to. Question, do you guys like to see my baby on camera? Little star of the show. Little star of the show. Okay. This is Solidago. It's got really pretty sort of yellow hues, and this, as time goes on, they'll start to open up. You can see the top part is opening up into this like gorgeous bright yellow, but the bottoms aren't yet. But the leaves are so ugly on Solidago, so I'm gonna pull all these leaves off. And I would use Solidago particularly if I'm looking for a wildflower inspired bouquet or bud vases. Not so much if I was trying to do like a romantic, like turn of the century one. So this Solidago I've kind of taken off the leaves, and then I can kind of experiment and see like whereabouts do I want to put this in. So let's go here, give it a little bit of a cut, and put that one in. And then I've got this wax flower still from before. Again, kind of sussing up like where do I want to put it in. And in my bud vases, I usually put 1 to 3 flowers. And I really like using a flower that has some size to it. So say like a spray rose or a carnation or a ranunculus. And then I put like 2 sort of fillers or 2 fillers in a greenery. But that's looking like much more filled in. It's still like got a bit of a flop kind of going here. I think I'm going to take them all and just cut them down lower. So that's the nice thing about doing them higher. You can always make them lower, but you can't go the other way. So that is looking much more reasonable. I think it needs another solidago just to kind of fill it out. Spray mums are another really good one to put in an arrangement, just because they again have a lot of flower heads and a lot of blooms to really fill out your arrangements. So there you go, that looks nice and full. I only had that one. Oh, hot tip, don't have a baby when you're doing it. He's got grabby hands. So I didn't have another Israeli ruscus, but here, let's show you. I think that is what I would call done. Like I really like that greenery kind of popping up at the top. This is Israeli. And then I got 2 solidagos, half a piece of wax flower, and 1 spray rose. And I took off a couple pieces there. Like I would actually leave that as an arrangement too. It's just 2 little pieces of spray rose, but that looks super pretty. And then that could be an arrangement. So if I was lining these up on the table, I've got this shorty one with just a couple little flowers. No flowers for you, little baby. This one here that just has a couple little blooms in it, and then this one which is more bouquet-like, and I kind of put them next to each other on the table to have kind of that variety of flower sizes and shapes. And then that makes it so much more cost affordable, because this one was just essentially the scraps from this one, or I could use these flowers and do like 2 boutonnieres out of these here. And then if I was doing a boutonniere, I might do like this piece here would be my boutonniere, and then maybe I would put some of the greenery from the wax flower. I have some pieces here. That's why I don't throw away anything. I'm keeping all these pieces. But I'd take some pieces of the wax flower and then maybe like some actual like flower part from the wax flower. Maybe some solidago. I'm not gonna actually make this right now, but you kind of like use your imagination to see like that would then be your boutonniere, which matches with your bouquet and your bud vases, and then you just use floral tape and like wrap the stems all together to keep them in this arrangement. And that's how long it takes you to make a boutonniere. Like if you're making a boutonniere, they are so fast. I just made that in like 3 minutes. Then wrap it with floral tape and get a pin, and you can pin it on. So boutonnieres are so easy to make, and they a lot of time just use your scraps. Although if you're using something like say ranunculus, if you did like 1 bloom per boutonniere, then you need to make sure you bought, if you would 8 grooms, and you need to buy 8 stems of ranunculus. So I think that's all I feel like talking about today. Anybody have any questions? Did you guys learn anything? I hope you learned something, and I hope you guys liked having my baby along for the ride. And thanks everybody for watching. I'll come do these lives another time. Talk to you later. Bye.